I'm Shraysi Tandon, live in New York, bringing you Global Business America's signature series, Women at Work. This year marks the 20th anniversary of the Beijing Platform for Action, one of the most progressive blueprints ever drafted for gender equality. 189 countries signed on, vowing to work together to give women equal rights in education and job opportunities. It also aims to end child marriages and eradicate violence against women. Now, the United Nations marked the occasion by hosting a Women Empowerment Principles Summit. UN Secretary General Ban Ki-moon and former U.S. Secretary of State Hillary Clinton addressed a global audience of delegates and media. They discussed the progress made, including more countries eliminating discriminatory laws and ending violence against women. They also touched upon the makeup of primary schools around the world. Nearly half of them are girls. Women's representation in national parliaments has also doubled from 11% in 1995 to 22% this year. Now, despite some progress, major gaps remain. Women's participation in the workforce has only marginally increased over the last 20 years, and the global gender gap in labor markets continues to be a critical issue.
We can't afford to leave any talent on the sidelines. Take the United States. If we closed the gap in workforce participation between men and women, our economy would grow by nearly 10%. And the numbers are significant for other economies as well. That's the power of full participation, particularly in the business sector, and particularly in the formal business sector, where, as the Secretary General pointed out, it can be measured. It can go into the gross domestic product, not just change lives and families, but lift up societies and propel economies.
Bringing women into the workforce and keeping them there is the great unfinished business of the 21st century. It's an issue prevalent across all industries, including the media. When Arianna Huffington decided she wanted to lead a media organization, she had to create one and launched the Huffington Post in 2005. Today, she's editor-in-chief of one of the most popular digital media companies in the world. As a woman, however, Huffington is in the minority. Industry surveys show that while women account for half the population and more than half of communication school graduates each year, they make up just 35% of U.S. newspaper executives. The numbers aren't any better in television, where 31% of TV news directors are women. And it's a pattern repeated around the world. According to the International Women's Media Foundation, women make up just 27% of top management jobs at media companies worldwide. Women opt out of the demanding profession more frequently than men, especially when they decide to have children. Now, according to the Organization for Economic Cooperation and Development, the U.S. is the only country in the developed world that does not guarantee paid leave for new mothers, forcing many talented women to leave the workforce.
We have no well-developed support for childcare and childbearing and caretaking, both in terms of giving men and women the leave they need at certain points, but also in terms of providing them with the child care they need so that they can combine that with work. So it's those institutional resistances that have been a problem for American women and American families.
So much of a problem that there are more women across the U.S. leaving the workforce than joining it. In 1999, according to the OECD, 74% of American women were employed, versus 69% by the end of 2013.
If you look back in history, there have been critical moments when we developed policies that affected everyone. So the rise of the 40-hour work week, for example, and the notion that there should be safe working conditions. And so we know from our past that not only do these policies make a huge difference, but they actually promote economic growth and well-being.
Despite the statistics, there are women who have defied the odds. Time magazine's managing editor Nancy Gibbs, former New York Times executive editor Jill Abramson, Vogue editor-in-chief Anna Wintour, along with Arianna Huffington and media mavens like Barbara Walters and Oprah Winfrey. The picture, however, remains imperfect. Women's advocates say businesses and governments need to implement more family-friendly policies to help women forge promising and long-term career paths.